Okay, you should be taking the world's oldest computer, HMH. Open it up, open the Google Doc, and it should look like this. The world's oldest computer, HMH, Module 3, Week 3 assessment. This is your reading assessment. It says read the selection and answer each question. The world's oldest computer. Off the rocky coast of the Greek island of Anarctica, diver Elias Dratius was lowered into the sea in his bulky diving suit. When he reached the bottom, his eyes widened. Through the murky water, he saw an old shipwreck entangled of bodies. He yanked on the cord that signaled to the men of the boat to pull him to the surface. Minutes later, he surfaced carrying a bronze arm. He had discovered a shipwreck with a cargo of statues. In the spring of the next year, 1901, Stratius and the other divers returned. With the help of a ship from the Greek Navy, they started raising marble and bronze statues to the surface. They also brought up a curious object. The object was covered with mineral deposits by small sea animals and plants. It was the size of a shoebox and had a rotted wooden frame. The object itself was composed of a piece of connected metal. 2,000 years under the sea. This strange object was thought to be some kind of mechanism, perhaps an instrument or machine. At the time, no one paid much attention to it. But years later, Anarctica mechanism would change our understanding of technology in the ancient world. The statues and objects were brought to the National Museum in Athens, Greece. Archaeologists at the museum compared the marble statues to the other ancient statues. As a result, they could tell that the statues of the shipwreck were made in Greece more than 2,000 years ago. A museum archaeologist examined Antikythera mechanism. He saw Greek letters inscribed on the metal. He also saw several gears. Gears are wheels with teeth. As one gear turns, the next gear turns the exact amount depending on how many teeth each gear has. Gears are used in many machines, including clocks and bicycles. My husband is putting away dishes. But there were no clocks or bicycles in ancient Greece, so what did Antikythera mechanism do? The answer is this question is hidden behind minerals covering many gears and much of the writing in Antikythera mechanism. More writing in the metal. By 1958, the museum had been able to safely remove some of the minerals. Historian Derek D. Sola Price studied newly cleaned mechanisms. He was able to read almost 800 letters of the ancient Greek language. The form of the letters and the words has proved the mechanism was about 2,000 years old. The writing included the Greek word for the sun, the moon, various stars, and the months of the year. The front seemed to show where the sun and the moon would be on different days. Price said that Antikythera mechanism was an ancient Greek computer, but the other researchers were not convinced. The only way we know for sure would be to look at the gears still hidden from view. Ancient computer. In 1971, there was a major breakthrough. The mechanism was examined using x-rays, like the one a dentist uses to examine teeth. This allowed Price to see inside the Antikythera mechanism. The x-ray pictures showed that the mechanism's gears turned in the exact way needed to predict the movements of the sun and moon. In 2005, scientists from Britain, Greece, and the United States used an even newer 3D X-ray technology. With it, they examined Antikythera mechanism. They were able to read twice as much writing as Price had. They moved many of Price's findings. They also showed that the dials on the back section and the gears that connected them predicted phases of the moons and ellipses of the moon and sun. So the Antikythera mechanism was a computer built to predict the movements of the sun and the moon. For many years, historians thought that ancient Greeks did not have advanced technology. A shipwreck more than 2,000 years ago and a lot of detective work proved that they did. Record your email so you can get a grade. Number 1. Read the sentence from paragraph 4. Here's the sentence. The object was covered in mineral deposits by small sea animals and plants. It was the size of a shoebox and had rotted wooden frame. The object itself was composed of pieces of connected metal. Think about the prefix com, C-O-M. What does composed mean in the sentence above? A made up, taken off, fallen short. The object itself was made up of pieces of connected metal. The object itself was taken off of pieces of connected metal. The object itself was falling short of pieces of connected metal. Number 2, read paragraph 5. This is paragraph 5. This strange object was thought to be some kind of mechanism, perhaps an instrument or a machine. At the time, no one paid much attention to it, but years later, the Antikythera mechanism would change our understanding of technology in the ancient world. What does mechanism mean as used above? Is mechanism a tool used by native people? A system of parts working together? C. A device once used on trading ships. Number 3, read paragraph 6. This is paragraph 6. The statues and other objects were brought to the National Museum in Athens, Greece. Archaeologists at the museum compared the marble statues with other ancient statues. As a result, they could tell that the statues from the shipwreck were made in Greece more than 2,000 years ago. What does archaeologists mean as used above? A. People who lived in Athens, Greece for a long time. B. People who could find shipwreck using advanced technologies. C. People who study human history by examining ancient objects. It says archaeologists at the museums compared marble statues with other ancient statues. Number 4. What are 2 effects of removing minerals from the Antikythera mechanism? Choose 2 answers. A. A scientist historian was able to read 800 Greek letters on the device. B. The mechanism was destroyed. C. The gears became clearly visible. D. Writing on the device proved it was 2,000 years old. Number 5. Based on the selection, ancient computer, what caused scientists to be able to determine what the Antikythera mechanism was? Let's go back to the ancient computer section. It says in 1971 there was a major breakthrough. The mechanism was examining using x-rays, like the one dentists used to examine teeth. This allowed Price to see inside the Antikythera mechanism. The X-ray picture showed that the mechanism's gears turned in the exact way needed to predict the movement of the sun and the moon. The question is, based on the selection ancient computers, what caused scientists to be able to determine what the Antikythera mechanism was? Try your best. Try your best. Remember, you can use the race strategy. Response writing with races. R. Read the question or prompt. Underline the key words. Rewrite the question as a statement. Rewrite the question as a statement. Based on this selection, ancient computers, what caused scientists to be able to determine what the Antikythera mechanism was? Based on the section, ancient computers scientists were able to determine because based on the selection, ancient computers scientists were able to determine that. What were they able to determine? In 2005, scientists from Britain, Greece, and the United States used a newer 3D X-ray technology. They examined the Antikythera mechanism. They were able to read twice as much writing as Price has. They proved that many of Price's findings. They also showed the details on the back section and the gears that connected them, predicting the phases of the moon and ellipsis of the moon and sun. So the Antikythera mechanism was a computer built to predict the movements of the sun and moon. Based on the selection, ancient computer scientists were able to determine that the Antikythera mechanism is a, what did we just read? What did we just read? Finish the sentence. Do not leave it like this. You will not get credit for copying my sentence. Finish the sentence. Based on the selection, ancient computer scientists were able to determine that the Antikythera mechanism is a what? Is a what? Is a computer built to predict the movements of the sun and moon. Go put in your answer. You can do it. Okay, moving on. Go back and finish this. Number 6. How does the photograph help the reader understand the passage? Okay, where was the photograph that we've seen? Well, let's go back and look. Did you see a photograph? There's your photograph. You should be able to look at your photograph on your quiz while I'm reading the questions, okay? So look at that photo. What does that photo tell you? How does the photo help the reader understand the passage? A. It supports the findings that the back section of the Antikythera mechanism had dials and gears on it. Does that look like dials and gears? B. It shows that the Antikythera mechanism helped determine the age of the Greek statues found near it in the ocean. Does that look like statues? C. It supports the idea of the purpose of the Antikythera mechanism could not be easily determined because of its age and condition. Can you not tell what that is? Okay, make sure you hit submit, and good luck.